This is the best idea for Pokemon fans. Or worse, you know, if you're one of those Pokemon fans. Yeah, you know the ones. Hey, quick thing before I get into today's video. If you like the videos that we make here every week, Tuesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, etc., and want to make sure that you see them in your subscription feed, that probably won't happen. We probably can't do that. We don't have the technology for that. But we can be sure that you do see the videos if you click the bell next to the subscribe button and follow us on Twitter at Fanatix4. Spelled the same way as our channel name. Okay, on to the video. Now, before I get any jimmies rustled, relax. Pokemon Switch will be huge regardless. I will buy Pokemon Switch regardless. However, despite the fact that I'm going to buy the game regardless of what it turns out to be, that will not stop me from speculating about the game, extrapolating on what possible rumors may mean, suggesting new ideas, etc. And this won't be a video where I'm seriously trying to address everybody's hopes and dreams. That's just not possible. Everybody wants something different. This video is going to be about what I want. If you agree with that, that's cool. If not, leave your suggestions in the comments. That's cool too. Contrary to what many people think, based solely on the title and thumbnail of my last video about this game, Pokemon for Switch is my most anticipated Nintendo Switch game. Even more than whatever Smash ends up being on Switch. Hell, it's my most anticipated game on any platform. The reason for this is a lifelong fandom that has evolved. No, that wasn't an attempt at a pun, and I hate myself for even presenting the possibility. My sincerest apologies. Okay. Now moving on. Anywho, that excitement is admittedly larger thanks to me being a lifelong Pokemon fan that has stuck around consistently throughout its life, loving the old while also embracing its new titles every step of the way. This, however, seems to be very unusual. If statistics mean anything, Pokemon largely fell from grace after the first generation. Of course, that's not to say it completely died. Many new fans kept the series alive with high sales, albeit not the peak levels of sales that were reached in the first generation, which nearly double the numbers of the latest generation of games in sales. And who can forget the meteoric success that came with Pokemon Go's return to the original generation? Kanto is a common ground for the Pokemon fan base. Whether you are a hardcore fan, a casual fan, or a lapsed fan, you have touchstones with the franchise that are at the very least rooted in the first generation of games. Pokemon and Game Freak would be smart to take advantage of this for the series' introduction to the Switch. Before you make the comment, just know I am well aware that this isn't what a lot of the Pokemon community wants. I know that many hate the idea of pandering to the Gen 1ers, but you can't in good conscience deny the power of the lapsed fan base. Winning them back could be pretty big for the success of Pokemon on console. This could even be the way to, in a sense, trick many of them into growing to love the new generations of Pokemon, like many of us do already. Again, Pokemon Go is a decent case study of this idea. They dropped the ball on the pacing, but I personally know a fair amount of Pokemon fans that came for the Gen 1 Pokemon and have grown to love some of the newer ones thanks to that game. Imagine a game that's actually good at integrating the old with the new from the day it's released. Pokemon Company, and more specifically Nintendo, is going to want to take advantage of the same latent hype that Pokemon Go took advantage of. That's going to have to mean a heavy focus on Gen 1. Does that mean we'll get a Pokemon Fire Red game? Well, maybe, but I don't think that's the only way they could go about doing this. I think people put a lot of stock in the idea that everything will always be the same way it's been in the past, and that it's completely impossible for Game Freak to kill two birds with one stone. What if Game Freak used one question mark many have to solve this mystery? What I mean by that is, there doesn't seem to be many people questioning whether or not we'll have the two traditional versions for this generation when it comes to Pokemon for Switch. What if Pokemon Switch turns out to be about the dichotomy between the fans of the old and the new? What if Pokemon for Switch has two entries that mirror each other in region? What if we have the option between buying a game that we start in a new region or beginning with what we know? Nintendo toyed with the idea of diverging versions with Fire Emblem Fates. What if Pokemon Switch had a similar model wherein after creating your trainer— yes, Game Freak, I said creating your trainer. That means go deeper than skin color, hair. Give me more options, okay? I digress. Back on track. After creating your trainer, you're prompted to choose between beginning your journey in your hometown of Kanto, because of course Kanto is your hometown, or moving to start your adult life at the ripe age of 10 in a region you've never been to before. All jokes aside, this could be represented in every aspect of the game, with the plot of the game surrounding the idea of tradition versus modernity. Something that Black and White flirted with but never fully explored. It's true to the real life divide between a lot of Pokemon fans, and they can even make the evil teams focus to force the inverse form of life on the main character. I think that could be interesting, especially if they make them into a culmination of all teams with different aspects of each team, like picking the side aspect of Team Aqua and Magma, the more deep dives into the lore that came with whatever X and Y was trying to accomplish with Team Flare. Aside from being what I think is a good way to meet everybody in the middle with the setting of the game, except for the Gen 4 crowd, but I'll get to that, and the plot and gameplay aspects of the game that could come with it. This would have a few other positive side effects, the first of which being a financial one for Nintendo, Game Freak, and Pokemon Company. As it stands, Pokemon generations have the gross potential of about $40 per game sold. Frequently, this turns out to be 2 games per customer. That's not to say every consumer buys both entries, but they do have a notable amount of people that fulfill that 2-to-1 ratio for many of the games they sell. The amount of people double dipping on Pokemon for Switch versions would undoubtedly drop with the inevitable $20 raise in price. How could they solve this? By presenting the chance to save on buying them in bulk through a digital purchase of the inverse version's content on the eShop, like Fire Emblem Fates. How deep this discount would be could vary, but if I were a betting man, I'd say something like this would be no more than $30. This would still raise the overall price of the game by $10, but I think this would be a welcome change considering the alternatives are 2 less ambitious titles with nothing more than maybe a higher resolution, or 2 $60 games with all of the bells and whistles many of us want to see on a full console release, but $120 is a hard pill to swallow. I'd even hesitate. Keyword hesitate, because Pokemon. With this new model being established, I think that would open up Game Freak to introducing more regions and story content for additional purchase, and as long as it's built in the same game's engine, it should be pretty easy for them to implement, which I think is a good way for us to see the Gen 4 remakes. These I think would be slightly more expensive because they'll be slightly more expansive than the initial extra content purchases, since they'll definitely require more legwork. This model, again, I think will make it possible for them to convert more players. Remasters tend to underperform in comparison to the full-on new generation games, but I'd imagine if you put the remakes inside a game most already own rather than requiring a full new purchase, you'd get a lot more crossover that way, because people are lazy or have less self-control if you take care of the heavy lifting. Whichever sounds better, I guess. Also, this additional purchase being made through the eShop could ensure that Game Freak wouldn't miss out on much money, if any at all. The only major concern I could see with this is forcing people to install these new games with Switch's limited flash storage. One possibility is that they wouldn't necessarily take up more storage, they could always install them to the cart, but I think an option for a physical release with some additional content on cart, content that you can unlock through other means of course, because people hate not having the toy that the other kid gets to play with. For everything we've heard about this game, it seems Pokemon for Switch will be changing up a lot of what we know. We already talked about the chance of a new battle system in a previous video. That change is pretty divisive. I think changing up the way they distribute the Pokemon versions is a particularly interesting one that I don't think will rile too many people up, but I've been wrong before about what makes people angry over a game, so who knows. You gotta give credit where credit is due though. Meeting everyone in the middle is the smartest move to make for a franchise that spans as many literal generations as Pokemon. So many people want so many different things. What better way is there to satiate everyone than to make the next game semi-modular in a sense? We could even see more mini releases like the Orange or Sevii Islands for a cheaper price. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Will Pokemon for Switch have traditional versions? And if so, how much do you think they'll cost? Or do you think that there's merit to this theory that I have going on here? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for new videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. If podcasts are your thing, we do those too. That's every Saturday, same time. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.